Hey, welcome to the studio. For today's video, I wanted to share something new here at Studio-Sara, and that is what's going out in today's mail. This is a variety of cards that I've made that some have been featured in blog posts, some have been entered in challenges online, and then there are some, like this one here, that have never seen the light of day. So I'm going to take this opportunity to walk you through each one. Check the coordinating blog post at Studio-Sara.com for any tutorial videos that I've done, and I'll have links to different products that I used, and I'll give you all the ins and outs on the blog post. Let's get going. Okay, so let's get started. So here's the card I was telling you about that has never seen the light of day. I created it using a stamp set called Postage Due, and that's where you get this big image here that I inked in Rich Razzleberry. It's inked on very vanilla cardstock, and then that's Always Artichoke cardstock, and the yellow piece behind is crushed curry. So there are a couple things that are kind of on trend in this card, and I'm anxious to show them to you. The first is the looping of the linen thread there. I've seen that in a lot of different places, and it's very simple to do. I just took a Stampin' Dimensional and looped the linen thread over it and caught each little loop on the sticky part of the dimensional, then stuck another one on and that Eiffel Tower stamp on top and held it all down. And then I don't know how easily you can see it, but behind the looped linen thread there is a doily, the Stampin' Up! Tea Lace paper doily to be exact. And they come in a little package like this. There are 24 in a package, and they just make a super easy embellishment to add to your project. Now, the crushed curry piece of this card was embellished using the Textured Impressions embossing folder. Unfortunately, the one I used is no longer available, but you could use any kind of embossing folder you wanted to on that, or you could distress it, crumple it up, that sort of thing, or just leave it plain. So there's that card, which will make a great all-use kind of card. It's pretty androgynous, so I could add any sentiment on top, and it could be a birthday card, a thank you note, or I could send it plain like this as a note card. This would also make a great gift if I gave a set of these to a friend to give as just plain note card. This next project highlights another big shot goodie, and that is the Hexagon Hive Thinlet die that I ran through with the pumpkin pie cardstock there. To me it looks like a soccer ball, and I'll explain why that's important here in a minute. But this is a really great thank you note. Unfortunately, that thank you sentiment is no longer available, but I found a good stand-in using one of the new photopolymer sets, and actually it's one of my very favorite sets. It's called Another Thank You, and mine's going to look a little scuzzy because it's just seen a lot of use, and the stamp's still stamped just perfectly fine. It's just the image on the cover sheet there's gotten chipped away a little bit. But I think that thank you on the bottom there would make a great sub in for the retired one. So anywho, you'll notice that I made the card with a crumb cake base, and then the white baker's twine makes a nice little touch there, and then those candy dots are such a fun and simple way to add some detail. There's that flagged end, and I'll be sure to put a link in the coordinating blog post to the video tutorial about that. You'll see a lot of those in my projects. They're a fun and easy thing to add some interest. But this is a card for my son's soccer team manager. She's been keeping us organized for the summer tournaments we've been involved in this summer, and she's helping us with hotel rooms and helping us get registered for these tournaments, and so I'm really grateful to her. This is a great card to make a lot of to keep on hand. This next project I entered in a runway inspired challenge. That is such a fun weekly challenge, and I'll put a link to that in my blog post. But it was a beautiful navy blue dress, so I used Night of Navy cardstock, and I heat embossed with the white embossing powder, that beautiful flower from the Happy Hooray stamp set. That's also where the image will, or the sentiment rather, in the upper left comes from, that thanks sentiment. Now that was also heat embossed. I used my Versamark first and then inked in my Night of Navy Night of Navy Classic ink, because of course you know we don't have Night of Navy Craft, and then I heat embossed it. I used my 1 1/4 inch circle punch and then my circles framelits for that Night of Navy piece behind. You'll notice while my big shot was out, I used the Decorative Dots Textured Impressions embossing folder to add a little texture to that. And then that's the Whisper White Organza, which I think adds such a classy touch to that. And here again is another card that I'm thinking I could make a whole set of fun gift cards with. And let me show you the set here. So this is the Happy Hooray set. This is new this year in the catalog, the 2014-15 Stampin' Up! Catalog. And I'm excited to make the Hi There card with the feather maybe, or with the flowers, but just do a mix of all of those, different colors and whatnot. But do some of that embossing because it really makes that image stand out when I emboss it. But this is a really versatile set, and I'm excited to make some card sets that I'll be able to use, and then they'll make great gifts too. So if you need like a hostess gift or a teacher gift or a thank you for someone, I'm going to do that. So for this card, I used the Chalk Talk stamp set and coordinating framelits, and that's the sentiment you see there, the Happy Big Day. I ran both the stamped piece and a basic black piece through my Big Shot with that shape there, and then I fussy cut the stamped piece to show just a hint of the white around the outside of the rich raspberry there, so you can see it set against the black piece. And then I used my mosaic punch for the rich raspberry and black pieces there, and I used a circles collection die to make the circle part, and then it was fed through my Big Shot with the Mosaic Madness Textured Impressions embossing folder. And that bow is driving me nuts, so I'm going to fix it real quick. That's just some baker's twine, and it's pretty easy if you need to work with it a little bit. It's pretty forgiving. There we go. That's better. So the eyelet is no longer available, unfortunately, but there are lots of other blingy options available to you in the catalog that you can sub in instead. So I'm excited for a friend who got a new job this week, so I'm sending this off to her. So this next birthday card is an oldie but a goodie, but I love the layout, and so I'm going to replicate this layout. I made it with the Epic Day This and That Designer Series paper, and unfortunately that's retired. It's not available. You can order it actually in my Digital Studio as a digital download, but you can't order it in paper form anymore. So I'm going to replicate this though. I'm going to use a different Designer Series paper. And then pick a different color of cardstock to make that big portion out of. There's that flagged end again that you see in so many of my projects. That's Gumball Green there, and unfortunately that's also retired. That was an in color for 2012 through 14. So just a different color that will coordinate with the Designer Series paper. But I love the rounded edges versus the sharp corners of the other pieces. That heart is nice and rounded. That little teeny yellow heart comes from the owl punch. That's such a fun way to use that punch. And then the happy birthday sentiment comes from the birthday set that came out as a celebration of the 25th anniversary for Stampin' Up! It was the Best of Birthdays set. And that's no longer available for purchase, but I do have an alternative that's good. It's from the Chalk Talk, which we just talked about a second ago. That would be a nice sub-in. Same size oval punch for that stamp as well. But you could use any sentiment, frankly, in place of that oval. That chevron ribbon is still available, and that was just a simple knot with a glue dot. This next project features the Kind and Cozy stamp set, and I used my Simply Scored tool for this one. I made that little raised beveled edge. All you do is you do it from the inside of the card, so I just laid that down on the Simply Scored and made a little border around the outside, and it just makes this lovely little bevel, and it's a nice way to add just a little extra something to your project if you've got that Simply Scored tool. Without adding another layer. There are my flags again, and then the teacup and the flowers and that little red circle and the heart. All of that's from the Kind and Cozy set. That is Primrose Petals there, that color, and unfortunately that's a 2012-14 in color that retired, but Rose Red you could sub in just as easily. That's Early Espresso and Soft Sky are the colors that I used there, and those sweet little pearl jewels are available to use still. Now this next project is one of my favorites that I've made lately. I love the collage card. Unfortunately, actually everything on here in terms of stamped image except for the splotches are retired. That's from the Hello Lovely stamp set that retired this spring. But I'll walk you through some things you can use instead. The Gorgeous Grunge is what I used for that Bermuda Bay splatter on the background there on the Whisper White. And then that's the Kaleidoscope Designer Series paper that was in the Occasions catalog. That too sadly has retired, But the Back to Black designer series paper in the current Stampin' Up! Catalog, the 2014-15 catalog, that is something you could use instead and sub that in pretty easily. There are all kinds of different black and white designs in that particular package of designer series paper. Let's see, what else could we sub in there? The ampersand that I embossed using the gold embossing powder is not available, but you can use the one found in the larger than life alphabet set, and that would be cute. You could use the 4-frame set to help you get that kind of flowery frame there, like at the top of the page. And then lastly, to replicate the little arrow at the top, there's a set called Geometrical with 2 fun arrows that you can choose. This card is a really recent card actually that I made recently for a sketch challenge. And I don't know if you can tell, but I had to cut it into pieces. It's broken apart into little frames. So that's the Corner Garden stamp set, and you'll notice that I don't know if you can see it in the light, but I heat embossed it using my Versamark pad and my early espresso ink because I wanted to watercolor that bloom there in the crisp cantaloupe, and if I heat emboss then it won't run the image. And so I fussy cut along the edge there of the Corner Garden stamp, excuse me, and then cut it into pieces to kind of replicate the background there. You can see some of my cuts. They're like little window panes, and it really turned out beautifully. I used the very vanilla seam binding, and the Happy Birthday comes from a brand new stamp set from Stampin' Up! This is the And Many More set. Lots of lovely sentiments. There's the Happy Birthday there, and I just inked that in the crisp cantaloupe, and use just a touch of linen thread and my modern label punch to punch it out, but I wanted to keep it monochromatic there for you. Thanks so much for your visit for this first mailbag video. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyable. For more information, don't forget to head over to my blog at Studio-Sara.com for more information, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.